Okay, we're joined now by Oklahoma State head coach Mike Boynton. Coach, when you're comfortable, if you could start us off with some general comments about your team.
Well, welcome everybody. Excited for another college basketball season. Looking forward to hopefully the next time I'm in this building that I'm actually coaching my team in the conference championships this year, as opposed to working as kind of a partner with you guys in the media. But I'm excited about this group. We've got some experience, probably the most experienced team that I've had since my first year. We only have one freshman and several guys who've been in our program for multiple years. The guys have worked really, really hard, like all these teams, and obviously we're just chomping at the bit to start competing.
Okay, remember we've got handheld microphones available for you with your questions. Remember to give us your name and your affiliation. If you raise your hand, we'll get a microphone to you. Got one here on the second row. To your left, Coach.
Matthew Postins, Heartland College Sports. Can you talk a little bit about Moose's development this offseason as an offensive player? Obviously, defensively, he's terrific, but I would assume you'd want him to take an offensive leap this year.
Yeah, thanks for the question, Matthew. We've been really, really pleased with Moose's development overall. He came in as a really kind of raw athlete. Always was pretty good in terms of instinctively blocking shots, and that's what he brings to the table from a defensive standpoint. But we knew offensively, there was some areas he could immediately become better at with some time and intention. And so we really focused on just his touch around the basket. We want to raise his field goal shooting percentage on non-dunking shots. And obviously his free throw percentage is an area of improvement as well that we were very intentional about focusing on. We feel like if we can make some steps in terms of being able to throw it in there, every 4 or 5 possessions and getting a positive result, it'll make the game easier for the guys he's on the court with, like Avery Anderson and Bryce Thompson and Caleb Boone even. And we've looked at some lineups with the two of them playing together, which we didn't do very much of last year, understanding that they can be, obviously really, really impactful defensively because, Caleb at one point led the league in block shots until Musa became his teammate. And so you got two really good defensive players who now can play together on the offensive end, which will make us a little bit more dynamic than we've been in terms of really, really having to rely on a ton of three-point shooting. But again, if Musa gets better like we expect him to and his numbers from an efficiency standpoint on the offensive end improve, that'll make us more dangerous with the guys who attack from the perimeter and guys like Avery and Bryce and even our 2 transfers, John Michael Wright and Caleb Asbury. So he's worked really hard on his touch, probably to about 15 feet. Still don't know if we'll see him shoot a bunch of jump shots, but definitely you'll see him probably working on more jump hooks and turnaround jumpers from about 8 feet in.
Coach, you have another question over here to your left.
Sam Lance with Zags blog and Adam Zagoria. Obviously, the transfer portal has been around for a couple off seasons now. What are just your thoughts on how it has functioned to this point, and what's your opinion on players transferring within the same conference? I think it was 6 people who went from one Big 12 school to another this offseason.
Yeah, Sam, thanks for the question. I don't know if I have a thought on general where transfer it is. I'm kind of a guy that, this is what it is, right? It's not changing. It's not like we're going to go back to making guys sit out. I even think the whole idea of not having to sit out after one-time transfer doesn't have a whole lot of teeth. We see appeals and waivers get approved every year at a growing rapid rate. And so, we got to deal in reality. Kids have more opportunities to kind of seek what they feel like is something better for them. I don't know if it's necessarily always actually better for them, not in terms of just their basketball, but in terms of their education, in terms of their development as a person, sometimes having to fight through something that maybe is difficult. I lived through that myself. I'm thankful that the transfer portal didn't exist in 2001 when Eddie Fogler retired. After my freshman year in college and Dave Odom replaced him as the coach of South Carolina, because honestly, at 19 years old, I probably would have transferred also. But the thought of having to sit out was enough of a deterrent to give me an opportunity to really grow through that moment. And because of that, in large part, I'm here today because having to go through those experiences and growing. But I know it's a different time. We have transfers ourselves, so I don't want to sit up here and be hypocritical. But we've tried to be very intentional about the type of kids we bring into our program and helping them understand what our program is about and why they can have success and why our program will have success with them. And so, you know, I try not to speak in too much kind of big picture generalities because no one really cares what I think, and really try to focus on how whatever the rules are impact our program day to day.
Got a question here in the middle, in the back row.
Kendall Kaut, Sikkim 365. Mike, I just got to ask, obviously you couldn't play in the tournament last season for a minor thing you had zero to do with. Seeing the penalties that have come out for much more egregious violations, has that been really tough for you, knowing what you all went through?
You know, I'll say this. I hope that it's a sign that we're kind of getting away from the old kind of outdated thought process of just pick on whoever you can at the moment, right? It was a really difficult season for our team to go through last year with that already on the forefront before we ever played the game, no question about it. I don't want to see a bunch of other kids have to go through that either. And so while I'm disappointed that what it looks like our program will be the last one to have to do that, I'm also, I guess I'm happy for the future kids that won't have to suffer that same fate because of things they really had nothing to do with. So, you know, it sucks to kind of now be a footnote in history. Will be probably a trivia question. Who's the last team to suffer a postseason ban over a recruiting violation? It'll probably be the 2021-22 Oklahoma State men's basketball team. But at the same time, maybe our case made some people kind of step back and think, you know, this is kind of ridiculous. This is a little egregious, and it's really wholly unfair to the kids who are now in the program. So, you know, in some of the cases that have gone forward now that haven't had a penalty, I don't necessarily want to see them punished. I'm just disappointed that we, unfortunately, will probably have been the last one to have that happen to.
Any other questions? I think we've got one more here on the next to the last row and to the left there, Coach.
Sam Lance with Zags Blog again. Just what have you seen from Bryce Thompson so far this offseason leading up to the season?
Yeah, Bryce, I've known Bryce for a long time. Obviously, he grew up in Oklahoma and got a chance to recruit him out of high school, and he made a different decision. But I've watched Bryce regain some confidence that was lost between the time he showed up on our campus last year and now. He's made some great strides. He seems to be enjoying the game and the time he has with his teammates again and playing with a lot of confidence. And so he's certainly somebody that we're going to look to lead us from a scoring standpoint. He and Avery Anderson are probably going to be our two kind of spearheads in the backcourt there. So, you know, he's going to do hopefully what he was expected to do out of high school, which is be an impact player in the best conference in America.
We've got time for one more question. Anyone have one? To your left, Coach.
Stone Weber, Gaylord College, Oklahoma. What are your thoughts on the Bedlam rivalry coming to an end in a couple years when Oklahoma heads to the SEC?
Stone, I mean, I don't know if I've gotten – obviously I've heard this from a football standpoint. I'm not sure that decision has been made in basketball, so I don't want to speak to it. Until that happens, we'll see. I mean, obviously we've enjoyed the opportunity to compete against them over the time and my time as head coach. I got great respect for Porter and the job he's doing to continue to keep that program relevant. And in terms of the question, I don't know if I can answer because I'm not sure that decision has been made in our sport specifically. I know it's probably been made in football at this point.
Okay, Coach. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.